Questions. With further delay, I'm delighted to introduce you to Adam Zuha, and who's a general manager at FloQast, EMEA. And Adam will be joined by one of our mutual customers, Chris Ellis, who's head of reporting from the Motor Fuel Group. So over to you, Adam.
Thank you very much, Tony. And thanks everyone for joining us today. As you can hear from the accent, you'll be hearing from an American for the next hour, although I am centrally located here in London now. My role is as the managing director of FloQast for EMEA. Lived and been over here for a little bit over a year and a half as a dual citizen. My background is that I've been with FloQast for close to 8 years now, helped to take us to market as a company in Los Angeles. Background before that was with Deloitte as an auditor. So you'll be hearing from two former Deloitte auditors, actually. Myself from San Francisco, Chris here in the UK for Deloitte. And I'm happy to be joined by Chris as a mutual client of Eureka and FloQast. Head of reporting at Motor Fuel Group, has been using FloQast for a few months now. And as we get into the session later, we'll ask him a couple of questions on how his team's using FloQast and what they've seen out of it. So excited to take you all through the presentation today. We're going to spend most of the time in the actual product, showing you a demonstration of what the product looks like. So this is intended to be a small group, just 5 or 6 clients on the call today. So please be interactive. Use that Q&A. I have no problems looking at questions and answering questions as we go. So I really encourage it. Just briefly on what we'll be covering, we're going to talk about how FloQast sits alongside, integrates directly with NetSuite to provide accounting teams a single place to manage the month-end close. So we do integrate directly with NetSuite to bring in trial balance and account balance information from NetSuite to help you integrate and automate some of your account reconciliations from your NetSuite trial balance directly to your Excel working papers. I'll show you exactly how we do that on the demonstration. And then how FloQast helps to capture everything from a documentation perspective for audit readiness. So all those pieces and more you'll see from the actual product demo here today. Just a little bit on who FloQast is. It's a company that's about 8 years old, 1,500 plus customers on a global basis, with offices headquartered in the States in Los Angeles, in the UK here in London. What you'll find and what you've seen from my background is not dissimilar to the founders of FloQast and the team in general. So we're a group of former accountants. Myself, a former auditor, the founders of the company, former auditors and accountants when they went into industry. As a company, 40% of our workforce are former accountants. So it's something that we've lived in our daily. We know the problems that people go through for the financial close process, for the audit, and everything that needs to be prepared. So rest assured, we've hopefully seen a lot of similar problems and challenges, had similar goals over the years, and I'll talk about why our NetSuite clients love FloQast so much. I do like to just show this slide briefly before we head into the demonstration itself. Just gives you an idea of some of the great clients that we work with across the globe. What I would like to point out here is that of our 1,600 plus clients that we have, 40% of our entire client base on a global basis use NetSuite. FloQast uses NetSuite internally as well. Everything that we develop for the product first is developed with NetSuite in mind and tested on ourselves as a NetSuite user. So it's really beneficial. I'll show you some of the APIs that we have direct to NetSuite as to why NetSuite users have loved FloQast so much. Without further ado, I'm going to hop straight into the product itself and spend most of our time there. So the first thing that I am pulling up here is just our global FloQast dashboard. So you can see that I'm in my web browser, I'm just using Google Chrome. So FloQast is completely cloud-based, web-based, and it sits outside of NetSuite, but integrates directly. So in this highest level view, I'm looking at a dashboard that's going to give me a status update into all of my entities or subsidiaries that I'm working within. So as an example here that I'm doing today for the demonstration, I have one subsidiary that covers pretty much all of EMEA and one that's a US-based subsidiary. Many of our clients, which we'll hear from Chris later, may have subsidiaries here that are listed as UK, US, any other countries throughout Europe or Africa or the Middle East that they can have all labeled here individually. So there's no limit to how many subsidiaries that you have. What we'll do is we'll mirror how it's set up in your NetSuite. So giving you a full snapshot into what your status is for the May close, as we're going through it right now, beginning of June. And we're gonna understand everything that's been prepared, reviewed, and reconciled back to NetSuite. So if I click into our main entity now, you're gonna get a more granular look from a checklist perspective and a reconciliation perspective on what's actually been completed. And when I think about FloQast and I think about the month-end close, I think of three main things that FloQast tracks. Your checklists or tasks that need to be completed on a daily basis. Most of us doing that in Excel or Google Sheets today. Who needs to do what and at what business day of the month those things are due. So I'll show you exactly what that looks like. We have the reconciliation process of taking your trial balance from NetSuite and lining it up and comparing it to your Excel working papers to make sure that it's validated and everything ties out and reconciles. So I'll show you exactly how FloQast functions with that. And then finally, a documentation perspective of everything signed off on and documented for if you have an audit. So first, taking a look at this dashboard, you'll notice that we divide everything into individual folders. And these are by accounting process. So this is completely customizable to the client. As an example, many of our clients don't have inventories. So if you have no inventory in your business, you're probably not going to have this folder. So all customizable, but you'll see the different areas broken out and you can track each. The little exclamation is going to tell me that there's still some accounts to be reconciled within this process for the month of May. The check mark is going to tell me that all the accounts have been reconciled. 7 out of 15, 3 out of 15 here. These are going to be my checklist tasks. So how are my sign-offs progressing in terms of what needs to be tracked? So if I jump into accounts payable now for the May close, what it's going to do is it's going to bring me to the folders tab. And it's going to centralize those three pieces that I mentioned to you. So you have your checklist or tasks with who needs to prepare or review each item and the specific due dates. You have the documents centralized that relate to that checklist. And then those documents flow straight into our reconciliations here as well. So the first thing that I want to show you is how these folders get created and how FloQast integrates directly with cloud-based file storage providers. So today I'm showing you an integration to Microsoft OneDrive that we have. FloQast actually integrates directly with Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive, Box.com, Dropbox, or a system called Ignite. So really the leading providers in terms of cloud-based file storage. I'd say most organizations that we're chatting with these days at least have access to Microsoft OneDrive because it comes for free as a part of the Microsoft suite of products. So if you do have access or you're already using it, I can show you here that FloQast breaks things out by year, by month, and then those individual accounting process folders. So you can see that everything that I have in your company, in your team's Microsoft OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever you may use, everything of how we structure these folders automatically is also structured that way on FloQast. So our team of former accountants works with you in an implementation process to come up with a best structure. And the best part about this is that it actually rolls itself forward automatically every single month. So not only in FloQast is it recreated for the next month with those folders, but in OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever you're using, we actually recreate those folders. So you don't have to copy, paste, recreate an entire new structure every single month. It gives you nice structure to know exactly where things are and where you can expect the documents every single month. I'm going to come back to the documents themselves and how they come onto the system in a second. But first, I wanted to show you the checklist itself. So these checklist descriptions can be based off of any checklist that you have in place today. So if you do have a month-end checklist in Excel or Google Sheets or however you check it, maybe a Word document, we'll import those descriptions and then we'll put the due dates based off of a T plus or minus system from the month end. So you can see here that the due dates will automatically reoccur on whatever frequency we set it to. So whether it's a weekly, every 2 weeks, monthly, quarterly, annual, any one-off months throughout the year, it's very highly customized to exactly how accounting and finance teams' tasks actually repeat. And then you can see here, you can add preparers and reviewers at any time, and this will come in from your users on the system. So all of these checklists are tracked, and as someone comes in and actually prepares this item or finishes it off, they'll come in and check off that the sign-off has been completed. It can then notify the reviewer that the work is ready for their review. A couple of pieces to notice here on the side of these checklist items. One, this little I moniker is going to say that if anything happens in terms of activity on this task, that you'll automatically get notified. And we have notifications that are sent in two different ways. First, you can receive any notifications via email, but we also integrate with Teams chat and with Slack chat. So if your team or your company uses Slack or Microsoft Teams to communicate internally, any notes or notifications that are left on the system, in this example, my colleague Remy left a note for my colleague Hugh with a link actually to a NetSuite transaction or journal entry. So you can leave links back to NetSuite as well. But this note, when it's left for Hugh, he receives an automatic notification directly to his Slack or his Teams, in which he can actually respond to the note in Slack or Teams, and it will post back here to FloQast. The second piece for you to notice here is just this attachment of documents. So in terms of the supplier invoices that need to be entered, you can come in here and you can actually attach any documents directly to the checklist item so that you have everything that you need for your review and preparation right here on the system. Now, scrolling down to the documents themselves, I want to revisit with you to that OneDrive or Google Drive folder. So all those documents that I have saved, just like you're working through your normal day, and many of our clients, are using an accounting or finance internal shared drive to house their files. It's a transition we're very used to. It's a simple copy and paste of the folders and files into this type of location. But you can see the benefit is that it then centralizes all of the documents that you need to reference and review right here on FloQast. So now you have the checklist, you have the documents that your checklist is referring to, and they flow directly into our reconciliation tieouts. So this is really where the integrations with NetSuite now start to come in. Our per trial balance column comes in automatically from NetSuite. That's a direct API that we integrate and hook up to. So we'll pull in the different account balances on the different month basis. And then we automatically compare that to your reconciliation Excel workbooks. And this is where every one of my clients goes, okay, so what do I have to do to structure my Excel workbooks? What kind of format do I need to change them to be into for them to have that numbers come in or compare to NetSuite? I'm going to show you an example here. And the first thing that I want to show you before I maximize this is just this hashtag FQ and the account number anchor in the cell to the right of the closing balance that I'm trying to compare back to NetSuite. So when I was auditing, I used to put maybe a TB or a check mark or my initials when something tied out. It's a similar type of notion. We're just going to put the hashtag FQ and the correct account number that you're trying to compare. So to show you here now, I have an AP reconciliation workbook that I'm working through. This structure, this format, or your recs can be in any format that you possibly would like. It doesn't matter. You can have multiple accounts reconciled on multiple tabs with multiple hashtags. It's really flexible in terms of the structure or formatting, but what it's giving you is a dynamic, direct link in to the actual workbook to compare at all times back to the NetSuite figure. And you can see here with the difference that we have a control in place that you're no longer allowed to sign off because the amount is out of our materiality threshold that we have set here. Another control that we have in place for when all of these reconciliations are tied out and have finished is we give you the ability to lock them down. So when you're locking down NetSuite for the period end after everything's completed, you can also lock down the reconciliations here. And the major benefit of that is that it actually locks the documents that you're working on in your own Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive or Dropbox. So I know when I was auditing, one of the things that I would talk to a client about when I chose a selection at the end of the year, and I chose something for mid-year, and they'd say, well, that was reconciling, that was tying out when we went through the process back in the May close. And I said, well, it's not now, or we can't find the document now. Someone must have deleted it, or the information got moved. So it really gives our clients peace of mind that once they actually have it tied out, once they actually have it completed, that they can lock it down, they can move on to the next month and not have to think about those previous files being deleted or altered or changed in any way. You can always unlock it as well if you need to make changes. But the next thing to note is when those files are completed and it turns to the end of June here or early July, and I'm going through now my June close, you can roll forward those documents from the prior period automatically here on FloQast. So I can say, maybe I want just one or all of these documents to roll forward. And what it's going to do is it's actually going to create a copy in this new period for you to begin working off of. So you have your file, you have your structure, your format, everything already there. It's consistent, and now you can add the current month's data. Okay. So what I just went through was an example of the folders tab, which has the checklist, documents, and reconciliations for one process for one main entity. Now, when I look at the tabs at the top, now we're going to get into our central looks. So if I get into my central checklist view, it's now going to be my checklist across all the processes, not just the accounts payable that I was showing you, but now we're going to have accounts receivable, cash, every single process here all at once. And you can see I can come in and filter in any way that I'd like. So I can filter by assigned user. I can maybe filter by what's incomplete or those items that are late. And you'll notice those late items are highlighted in red. And you will get notified however you choose to get notified. You can do it on a daily basis or a weekly basis on the late notifications or on the late items. You'll get notified via email. One other piece to notice here is that you're allowed to tag any item on our system with a custom tag. So you have the abilities to set different tags that you may have, journal entry as an example. So this is going to filter down and list all the items within this month-end close period that are related to journal entry items. It's an easy way to see exactly all these different filters and what you want to narrow things down to. So we're still within the one subsidiary or one entity here within EMEA. I can also choose to go to all entities. So no matter how many subs you have, no matter how many entities in NetSuite, you can come in here and centralize all the tasks for them directly here on the system. And this is very similar for our central reconciliations tab as well. So as someone who's managing the process of our tie-outs or our reconciliations on a global basis, you might come in here and use what I think is the most powerful filter or button on the system, the unreconciled filter. So if I come here to my central recs, I'm now looking at every single rec that we need in the month-end close for May, and I click unreconciled. I get an immediate view into exactly every single account rec that is outstanding or has a difference for this current month. It gives me visibility that I don't have when I'm comparing all those different individual work papers or Excel workbooks that the team is saving and emailing around and everything normally. One of the other things that you can see here on the system is that you can export from any area here. So we do have the ability to give your auditors licenses. They can have read-only access to the system if you'd like. Or what you can also do is export everything that's been completed on the system to hand over. So if I export this to PDF and I hand this over to the auditors, it's just a really nice, clean way to start the audit. It's going to list every single account that's been tied out for the month, the currency, the balance per NetSuite, the balance per our Excel workbook, who prepared it and who reviewed it and when they signed off in a timely manner. So I showed you one way that we are helping to automatically or help to auto reconcile accounts in terms of the tie-outs. There's a couple other ways that we actually complete the reconciliations for you as well. So now I'm filtering by those, our auto rec matching amortization in our standard. The first on our standard is that any fixed balance accounts that you have, so accounts that shouldn't change month over month, restricted cash or goodwill or things that you know should be consistent, zero balance accounts in an account, we can set that to be fixed on the system, not require any document support for it, but as long as NetSuite lines up with exactly what you want fixed, we'll automatically sign off for you on that account. So it gives you good confidence that it's been completed and is the right number you're looking for. The other one that we have here, or the next one, is our auto rec matching ability. So we have the ability for any account, and when you think about matching of transactions, it's something that often you'll think about for bank reconciliations. But FloQast, we know that you may be doing your bank recs already automated within NetSuite. Maybe you're not, and it doesn't work for some of the banks that you're working with. So what we can do is we can pull in all of the transactions automatically from NetSuite on one side, and then have you upload a bank statement or any other file in this section. So we do this matching of transactions for any type of account. It doesn't just have to be bank recs, can be intercompany, accruals, it can be anything, credit cards, anything that you have a high volume of transactions that you want reconciled between two different sources. And how we match those items is on 4 main columns: date, amount, a custom reference field 1, and a custom reference field 2 from you, the client's data. So being able to customize this to your data is really important for us, because we know accountants don't have time to go in and create all of these different rules for how the data matches. So this is universal to any client. All we have to do is point to the correct columns, that we'd like. And then the system can match one-to-one matches, one-to-many, even single-sided reversals. And anything that's outstanding from timing perspective will flow here to this page where you can sort, filter, search by different transactions, and it'll narrow it down. And you can see if there's anything that you can manually match. What we do now is allow you to save this as a reconciliation. So we'll pull this down to Excel. We'll put the hashtag FQ and the account number anchor directly next to that final balance that you want to compare back to NetSuite. We'll give you the aging analysis on the outstanding transactions from the GL and that other source, and give you all of the different proof that you need in terms of the transactions that were reconciled. So this is one thing that you can use. You can choose to use this matching. The other that we do here in terms of the auto rec ability is our amortization accounts. So as I come back here to the system and go now into our amortization and come back and filter again, you're going to see that it's going to take me to my prepaid accounts. And I can essentially have all of my prepaids listed here from NetSuite with the different account information that I need, account numbers, invoicing dates, the start dates, the end dates, and it's going to give you an amortization schedule broken out for each of these prepaids. So in the system, we have a roll forward of our beginnings, our additions, our ending balances, as well as an amortization waterfall that's automatically calculated for you over each of the months. Again, similar to what I just showed you with the auto rec ability, we can export this now to Excel, and it's going to give you a fully formatted reconciliation with that hashtag FQ and the account number next to that final balance to compare back to NetSuite. And we're even going to give you the journal entry in NetSuite format to upload. So we'll have our debits and credits here, and this has your journal entry automatically calculated for you to upload back to NetSuite if needed. So those items are all in terms of our reconciliations and checklist centralization. So now you've seen the 3 different ways that we reconcile. You've seen all the different ways that we track the checklist. Now I'm going to show you how we analyze and report on everything that we've captured in the system. So the first is our analytics module. Now that we're tracking everything that you're doing on a daily or monthly basis for the close process, now we can give you statistics and trends on how your performance is doing. So in the current close, are we on track? So you can easily come here and see that we're late based off of the percentages and where we should be on the 9th day of the month here. And it's going to tell us specifically how much we're late in each entity. So if I was to click into the entity itself specifically, it's going to tell us where we project to close. So in our demo account here, it's looking ugly. We're projecting for a 33-day close. We even have a target of a 26-day close. We probably want to be a little bit more ambitious for that, at least once we get on FloQast. And you'll be able to see here exactly which folders have you late and be able to hyperlink and click into exactly those areas. And the particular area that I love in terms of the analytics is our close trends. So you can look at the trends over any period you're measuring, year to date, 1 year, 3-year period, and it's going to give you your average days to close each month. And hopefully it's a downward trend that you're improving the close, you're shortening it, because we're going to tell you your bottlenecks. What are your reoccurringly late checklist items? What are your reoccurringly late reconciliations? How frequently late are they over the period? So every one of the 5 periods this year, and on average of 4 days or 3 days. So if I'm looking for areas of improvement, I can come directly to this analytics and say, oh, these are the areas, if I start working on these individual items, then naturally we're going to improve. The last piece here that I want to show you, once the numbers are all reconciled, tied out, verified, is the Flux analysis. So what many of our clients have told us is they run a Flux or variance analysis to compare the movement of balances in accounts on a month-over-month basis or quarter-over-quarter, year-over-year. But they are always doing this after the close period. They don't have time to do this when they're going through the close or as the numbers are changing. So what we've done is we've allowed our clients to do this more automated, faster during the actual close reporting period. So you can see here, balance sheet or income statement, month over month, quarter over quarter, any 2 periods directly from NetSuite. We're pulling in each of the individual account balances and comparing them between 2 periods. So we'll give you an amount change and a percentage change, and you can set materiality thresholds based off of those amounts or those percentages. And if it's a material change, it'll require an explanation from whoever is assigned to that account. So now you can have everything prepared for you for the audit as you go through each month in a very clear, concise way, as opposed to scrambling to explain these things at the end of the year or when you get to it at the end of the quarter. These are all customizable of how these reports are run or set up. Our implementation team, again, all former accountants on that team, they typically set up these reports for you of how this comes in. And then when you're all finished up, you can export this fully to Excel again, and it's going to come in to this nicely structured, formatted file with the 2 periods, the variance amount and percentage, if it's material, and that explanation and who left the explanation. So this is a great full report, auto-generated for you, that's going to allow you to put this in maybe a board package or a package to the FD or CFO, that might be reporting on these differences in terms of the accounts. I know I'm working through very quickly here. We'll probably finish up in the next 5 minutes or so with the functionality itself. Happy to answer any questions as they've come up already about the product. If you have any, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm just going to continue forward until I hear any questions for now, though. The next piece that I want to show you is this little green arrow that we have in the top corner. So what our clients told us was, we have all this information. We're trying to do the close as fast as we possibly can, but we're reliant on a lot of information from other departments and outside vendors to actually do the close process. So if you could create a way for us to speed up the collection of the data and documents that we need, then we could get things faster to close faster. So what we did was we listened to that to create a system called the Remind. And what Remind is an automatic data and document requesting tool. So whether it's a reminder, whether it's requesting legal accruals from outside legal or vendor accruals from outside vendors, you can use any of these templates, upload all the vendor contact information that you need the same info from, alter these email templates, and you'll see a draft here. And then these can be sent on an every week, month, or quarter basis on the same day of that week, month, or quarter. So we can have this set to anything that you need to obtain to repeat every single month or quarter for you. And then the system will automatically follow up a certain amount of time. So you can set it to be, diligent, never give up mode, where it's something that's necessary. We absolutely need the information. So the system will do the pinging automatically to whoever you need the information for. And the great thing about it is, if we're obtaining maybe 10 to 15 documents or data requests that are similar, when we receive those requests in, they'll come into our dashboard, and you can actually download or export all of the results to a single document. So it'll aggregate all the responses into a single document for you to make things very easy. Okay. Last thing that I'm going to show you now is everything that we just went through was for the financial or month-end close. We have all that functionality that's related to the close, but we're able to track anything that's related to the close or outside of. So accounting and finance has so many different workflows, whether it's the FP&A group or payroll, reporting, compliance. So we can track anything within accounting and finance that repeats on a weekly or monthly basis. So any of these items that you're calculating or that you want tracked in proof that they've been completed, we can track them all. And then eventually they'll all flow here if we have multiple workflows to track. So the close plus FP&A or compliance or anything like that will all flow here to our all workflows dashboard. So you can see I have the close that we are looking at specifically for most of the time. I have compliance in the month. So all of these different items will be tracked, as well as a Gantt chart to tell you exactly which of the team members or workflows are tracked on a daily basis throughout the month that you're going through. With that, I'm going to wrap up the functionality of the demonstration and the product itself, and we'll transition into the Q&A that we have with Chris here. All right, Chris, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you loud and clear. Thanks for joining us today, Chris. Appreciate it. And I know the audience does too, of hearing real life how FloQast is used from a client. We'll start off with just the challenges that you were facing that led MFG to consider using a tool like FloQast.
So Motor Fuel Group, a highly acquisitive company, lots of subsidiaries. I think at one point we had about 78 subsidiaries. We're now done multiple reorganizations to get us down to about 50. But having that many subsidiaries, lots of them having purchase ledgers, sales ledgers, fixed asset registers, it was quite a manual process that we were going through at the time to ensure that all the balance sheet reconciliations were being done and signed off, prepared and reviewed. We were doing it on a separate Excel schedule, and it was very inefficient. Lots of chasing up people, lots of people saving them in the wrong places, having them prepared but not necessarily reviewed. So we were looking for a system that would automate a lot of it for us and take away a lot of the time of simply time spent chasing people to do things, as opposed to actually doing the reviewing and checking and more analysis. So we were looking for something that would eventually just help us save a lot of our time.
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense. That's a lot of subsidiaries that you have there. Of course, not all our clients have so many subsidiaries like that. But I think it's just the challenges and the complexity. Once you start to have, even as small as 3 to 5 people in the accounting and finance department, you start to get so many different hands that are working throughout the processes to track all these different reconciliations and tasks. It's definitely becomes a need. And you kind of touched on it a little bit there, Chris, but prior to FloQast, how did you manage your reconciliation and close process mostly?
The reconciliation process was very much a post-month end task. So the focus would always be on the profit and loss account for the month, and we do a lot of analysis to check that the P&L was okay. And a lot of the balance sheets would be done post-month end. People would be doing little bits of it during month end to check, but then there may have been a late posting go in that someone may not have noticed until after the close when they'd come to do their balance sheet reconciliation. So what this has done by using FloQast, it's allowed us to do the balance sheet process during month end, because I said the key thing that we found is that if someone's prepared their balance sheet reconciliation and it agrees, once someone posts something to that account and it no longer agrees, you get an email notification. So there's a lot less duplicating, there's a lot less people going in and just double checking their one's posted to the system. We were doing this process post close, and you'd always find something where, oh, this invoice came in and I should have put that to the P&L. So it's just given us the confidence now to do things during month end, and it's much less of a simply P&L focus and a P&L and balance sheet focus. So we know that when we come to close, that everything is reconciled, and we're now comfortable with where we are.
That's great. Yeah, you're not alone with how much we hear. Most of those things get deferred till after the month end because it's so hard to complete them all and track them without a central way to do it all. So definitely makes sense. In terms of the implementation and support with FloQast, what was your experience with the FloQast training and implementation of the actual tool itself?
So we went live with FloQast in November 21. We're a December year end, so I was quite apprehensive about doing it pre-year end. I was thinking about we should be doing it in March 22 once we got through year end, but I was reassured by FloQast team that everything would be fine and they would take the brunt of the heavy lifting, which I was a little bit skeptical initially. But actually, the training was fantastic. The customer service has been the thing that's been the best element of it so far. The training was very patient, very methodical. If someone wasn't able to attend the training, we weren't being told, for example, that no, you've had your training session. They were very keen to make sure that everyone felt comfortable when going onto the system. What was really useful is that because a lot of the people were former accountants, they had suggestions. We discussed our chart of accounts, we discussed our subsidiaries, and it was very much a team effort to work with FloQast to see what would work best for us. And there were lots of things I hadn't necessarily thought of that would make our lives a lot easier. Lots of grouping of accounts to mean that we were having fewer reconciliations. The use of the fixed balance meant that we had lots of accounts that are static that we weren't having to manually prepare for each month. And the implementation was very easy. I was quite surprised how much of the work that FloQast did for us. And it was more us providing information, FloQast doing quite a lot of the preparation for us, and us sort of reviewing and double checking that it all worked for us. So the training was great. I was really, really impressed.
That's great to hear. Yeah, a couple points to emphasize there, and I mentioned it a few times, but our team is all former accountants that you're working with on the implementation front. They are all located here centrally in London. So you're working with the team. Implementing you is in the time zone. Your account management team that you work with at FloQast is here in London as well. And to Chris's point, we don't charge hourly. We've never charged hourly for service or support or anything like that. So we're happy to do as many calls or trainings or recordings for the team that is needed. We really pride ourselves on the customer service and support. And as former accountants, we know that accounting and finance, we're stretched thin. We don't have the time to take on a whole lot of new implementation projects. So the design of FloQast is that it should implement in less than 4 weeks about. So it depends, of course, on the complexity and the different client that we're dealing with, but 3 hours per week we ask typically of the main person on the client side, spread out over 4 weeks. And our setup team really does take the bulk of the implementation on ourselves. You were chatting a little bit about it there, Chris, but just overall experience working with the FloQast team in general?
I think it's just been very collaborative. What has been really useful is that we've had quarterly meetings to review what we're doing. FloQast have been telling us there's functionality that you're not using that we think would add value for you. There have been some things that I've said we're not using it because of this. To which actually what's been really useful is they will take what you're doing and come up with suggestions for, have you thought about doing this way? So it feels like very, very much a team and working together. The team have been very patient. There's never been a moment of we've already told you how to do this when we come across an issue. There's lots of times where we've said we're having an issue with something, and not only have they told us how to fix it, but they've actually gone into the system and fixed it for us and said, this is how you'd fix it yourselves going forwards. So in terms of the overall experience, it's worked really well. I was quite skeptical when Adam said how much time I would need to put into it, but actually it was that amount of time. We didn't have to put in as much time. We were able to do it in time for the November close. It meant that once we got to year end, it made our close noticeably more efficient and more secure, that we were closing the year with every single balance sheet reconciled before we closed the system. And I was really amazed how quickly the link worked to NetSuite in terms of once you posted a journal, once you press the refresh button, it was genuinely only taking less than 10 seconds for the system to update. So you could see, actually, yeah, that's fine now, that reconciles, it works. But overall, no, I can't say anything negative about it. It's gone very smoothly.
Great. That's great to hear, Chris. And just overall, I think the clients would love to hear what improvements have you seen now since implementing FloQast?
It's just really improved our control environment. It's given a lot of people more confidence to do work pre-month end around the balance sheet. Some of our team aren't quick to accept change. We've changed accounting software to NetSuite in the last couple of years. And you had some people that would have been reluctant to change, but actually I had no negative feedback from anyone in the team about the change. We had a manual process and everyone's agreed and bought in to the change of going into FloQast, and everyone can see the benefits. I haven't had one negative feedback from anyone in the team. It's made our lives just a bit more efficient in terms of we're not having to go through and double check, triple check that everything's done, because the system does it for you. So we're now the time where we would have been chasing people, we're now spending questioning items in the reconciliation. So there's a lot of manual time saved. We're not having to sort of pester or chase up people. And it's given people a lot more clarity on what they are covering. So having so many subsidiaries in the group, you might have had someone that was doing purchase ledger and they hadn't necessarily realized they were doing purchase ledger for 16 entities. They might have thought they were only doing it for 13. So it's just given everyone a bit more clarity and confidence on what they need to be doing each month end. It's also supported with things like staff absences, where reconciliations may not have been done because someone may have been off after the close, but we can have multiple preparers, multiple reviewers, so that if someone is off sick, that other people can pick it up. So we're not in a position whereby we come to a quarter end and the head of purchase ledger's off and the reconciliation hasn't been done or saved down, because the team are notified and prepared in advance. So it's just created a lot more of a stronger controlled environment.
That's great. What are you, last question here, and before anyone can chime in from the audience, what are you thinking about FloQast in terms of your other subsidiaries and just future expansion?
So we have 2 further subsidiaries which report into us externally. They're not in NetSuite, so they have their own reconciliation process, which is quite inefficient. One of them is transitioning onto NetSuite for this June close. So one of the first things that I'll be doing to help improve the process and save them time and us time is to get them onto FloQast as well. This will help us. It will help them submitting their reconciliations more efficiently. I think we're also going through a sales due diligence process, and I've noticed that FloQast has been really great, that we've got all the reconciliations in one place. Everything's saved centrally. So if something does accidentally get deleted off the system, they're all on FloQast. Everything, I can get the last 12 months worth of purchase ledgers and sales ledgers incredibly quickly, as opposed to chasing people for them because they may have saved them on their desktop, for example. So it's just a very noticeable difference, and we'll be endeavoring to get every subsidiary into FloQast.
Very nice. We'll be here. We'll be here to help. Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it, and I think probably everyone does that perspective of an actual user. We'll pause here for any questions that anyone has. Of course, if you want to follow up directly with your Eureka account manager, whether that's Tony or someone else, please reach out. They can get us directly in touch with FloQast, or you can contact me directly here at adam@flowcast.com, either way. But we'll open it up now to see if there's any questions from the audience.
There's nothing come through on the chat or the Q&A at the moment, Adam. Anybody in the audience like to ask anything at this stage? If not, say, as Adam has said, please do contact myself or your Eureka account manager or Adam directly.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so if there aren't any questions, it probably just remains for me to thank you, Adam, for your very detailed and informative demonstration, and Chris for your very comprehensive and honest feedback. Thank you for everybody else for attending this morning. We will have a recording of the webinar available for everybody who wants one. And if you are interested in discussing FloQast further, again, please contact myself or your Eureka Solutions account manager or FloQast directly. So thanks very much for your attendance, everybody. Have a great rest of the day, and I look forward to hopefully talking with you all in the future.
Thanks, everyone.